Ty Brady here with Brady Insurance Marketing in the Ty Brady Way. As a successful entrepreneur myself, I'm passionate in helping other entrepreneurs do the same as they rise from rags to riches and get inspired each week on the stories they tell here at the Ty Brady Way. Welcome back to another episode of the Ty Brady Way. I have Aaron Moff here today, and you know what? I'm glad you're on the show. I love it when I ask people, have you ever been on a podcast show? And they're like, well, no. And I said, well, you know what? There's a story that needs to be told, and people need the relatability. So, you know, you're in the insurance industry. I'm in the insurance industry, but you're a different side of the insurance industry. But, you know, I don't think anybody ever grows up and says, hey, I want to get in the insurance industry. So How did you get in the insurance industry? And then, you know, how have you built, you know, what you have now, and, you know, the transition about, you know, how it's all, you know, property and casualties becoming, seems to me, you know, that's home and auto is what you're doing. That's your forte. But how did you get in the industry?
Honestly, just like you kind of said, nobody grows up and says, I want to be in insurance. I didn't know anything about insurance. To be honest, it was just very simple. I'd gotten married, was doing sales jobs, and I needed something consistent.
Yeah.
And looked out there and got hired to work for an agent. And that's kind of where it first started. So I'd been done sales, but I needed something more 9 to 5, consistent for my family, going to school, and got hired on as an agent to work for an agent. And then it ended up being, after about 6 months, it was like, wait a minute, I could actually make a career out of this.
Wow.
So I knew within about 6 months of working for that agent that, hey, this is something I want to make a career out of. I'm good at it. And I've got the skills and the talent to do that. And I just went forward and went on from there and jumped in. And
were you with in the insurance world? There's usually they're captive. Are you a broker now?
So I started captive. Oh, okay. So I first started with American Family Insurance.
All right.
So back in 2003, they had just opened the state in 2002. So they were hiring tons of agents. And I got hired as an assistant for an agent, basically. And after, like I said, about 6 months, I realized, hey, I wanted to go and get hired on. So then I went through the process. Getting hired on with them. So I was with them for about, a total of 9 years, about 7 to 8 years as an agent.
Yeah.
So, and then until I switched to be an independent. So I was captive for about 7, 8 years. Very grateful for that time because it taught you a lot. And also the captive route, a lot of times, if you go captive, they help you get on your feet, which was so necessary. So starting insurance. So that was really important and very helpful. So yeah, kind of the same thing, because insurance, you look back and go, I would have never thought insurance. No. Never. So
over the years of you being in the insurance industry, what are some positive things that have come out of, because insurance it's a service, meaning you're selling somebody a piece of paper that if crap hits the fan, that things they're gonna be covered. Yeah. Do you have any stories where you've helped somebody, you know, like I was able to, my brother was in property and casualty, and he had people to burn their house, you know, the house was burned down.
Oh yeah.
He was there hand in hand. But a story that you want to share that somebody you've helped over the years?
I'm trying to think. There's stories all the time.
Yeah.
I can think of stories to where you've done reviews with clients. I remember one particular where you do a review and you say, hey, this isn't really covered. Like I remember one time there was a wedding ring, and it literally was like within a week we had them add that on to their policy, because the policy only covered so much for jewelry, and so the ring was well above their limits. We got that added on, and literally the next couple of weeks they went to somewhere in the Caribbean and they're out swimming, and next thing they know, it's gone. So they call in, replaced, you know.
Yeah.
And there's been so many of those times, with car accidents to home claims. I've had a couple home fires, complete burned down, complete losses. And in both of those situations, you know, they were able to take care of everything, which has been awesome. But it's also the little stuff, just the little tiny things of having the right coverage, having the right things, and be able to help them through claims. You get a lot of people first claim, they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So they call in, and I had one last week, you know, somebody had an accident, and just directed them on what to do and where to go and trying to help them through that. So yeah, it happens all the time.
I think a lot of people don't even understand what their policy does or does not cover. Like
that's the biggest thing.
You're like, and I think people should have a relationship. Like today's day and age, they can go online, they can buy a policy, but they don't know what the exclusions are. But I don't think it hurt. Here's what people don't understand. Whether you buy online, over the phone, or through the mail, if you're buying with a particular carrier, the cost should be the same, unless there's something you're not telling them. Or the limits are a little different, right?
Yeah.
Because there's state minimum requirements, and then you could add on more. So I choose to add on, look for a few more dollars, add on more coverage, because heaven forbid, insurance is about offsetting risk, right?
Absolutely.
And I want to be able to offset that risk and help people, but I don't think people even understand the limits of their policy or what it does and doesn't cover.
So that's been kind of something that's been missing in the P&C world. I think kind of with the insurance industry together, because when I first started, we sat down with every client, filled out like a paper application, whenever there's coverage. Now, I don't meet with any client.
Yeah.
I've not had 0 clients go to my office probably in the last 4 to 5 years.
Wow.
I've actually gone out. I will offer to go out. I went out just the last week to a client up in Salt Lake where they said, hey, can you come by? And I said, absolutely, I'll come by. So I still offer that and I go by, but that's kind of a big thing missing, where you sit down, go over coverages, that type of thing. So what I've learned to do is basically I start off with the coverage that they should have. So you're absolutely right. I'll be quoting against somebody. Maybe I got a lead and I quote against somebody, and they'll contact their agent, and their agent will come back and say, well, I've saved you money. And I'm like, well, there's no way to save you money. It's not like there were discounts you didn't have, or there's a secret code. Agents can't negotiate.
They have, correct. They have no say-so on the price.
You have 0 say-so on a price. Yep. And people think we do, and we don't. I mean, I don't get a discount on my insurance. It's set by the state. It's run by the state, and I can't do anything. So if they come back with a lower price, that's because they drop your coverage.
Something you're not comparing apples to apples.
No longer comparing apples to apples. So that happens all the time. And so in fact, I had one yesterday where I got their information and I'm trying to give them the quote. She's like, well, what about, and I went over all the extra coverage. I said, well, first of all, so like with auto insurance, you have like emergency roadside service and you have rental car coverage.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people who say, oh, I don't need that. And I make them now give it to me in writing. Either send me a text or email me, because I can't tell you how many times as a new agent where people would tell me I don't need that. And then 3 months down the road, they'd be traveling, because they don't think they're going anywhere, right? They don't think, oh,
it's never going to happen, right?
Never going to happen. Then they're on the way to, Wendover, and they're halfway, and all of a sudden they need a 100-mile tow, and it's going to cost them, $500.
Yeah.
And then they're really mad about that. And I said, well, remember the time you told me? He says, and it's like, well, at that point. So I require it now. So now, just being in the industry for 20 years, there's certain things that just a good agent's going to keep those on. There was one client who last week.
What does it actually save? A couple bucks a month?
If that.
If
that.
Yeah.
So, there's some things you can shave. I had one client who he was having trouble making his payments, and he went to Progressive, and Progressive gave him a great rate. Well, I sell Progressive. And I said, well, there's no way I can get that rate. But I actually went back into my quote, and I shaved off every coverage. This was like the worst policy you'd want to sell. And I came back and I was able to match the rate, but he had called the call center.
Oh.
And so the lady on the call center was just trying to get a sale. And I went back to him and said, listen, if I sell you garbage, like this crap policy, I said, yeah, I take all this off. But I said, I would never sell that.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I really need that. I really need it for this price. And I said, well,
too bad, so sad.
Yeah, too bad. You're going to have to go through there. He's like, well, give me a call in 6 months. Hopefully at that point I'll be able to afford more. And I said, okay, well. I said, well, if you have a claim, just so you know, like, you're legal to drive.
Yeah.
But good luck.
Yeah.
Sorry, good luck.
If I've heard some rumblings, because I have a lot of friends in the insurance industry, about they're projecting the next 3 to 5 years that property and casualty is going to have rate increases at 30-40% consistently. And here's my personal insurance. I just added a daughter. Birthday was in March. They wanted to increase my insurance by $10,000 a year. I've been with the company 20 some odd years. And they're like, this is the best we can do. Guess what? I switched. I didn't want to, but I switched because I'm like, there's no way I'm going to pay that kind of.
Yeah.
So, I mean, are you hearing that? Are you seeing that?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Oh.
100% right now. And it's a bloodbath in P&C right now. And every agent wants to give. I hear all the. I talked to the person yesterday, a couple of people. I think this is a great opportunity for PNC.
Sure.
Because before, when rates were steady, it was hard to get
anybody to move
because they're like, everything's great. Now it's not great. So it's a great opportunity as an independent agent to get people interested.
Mm-hmm.
And probably 6 to 7 out of 10 times, I'm able to save them money because I have the ability to shop. I can shop it. And so this is good for me. It's bad for customers. And I as an independent agent, I like it so much better. If you're a captive agent, you have to oversell the company. You have to oversell yourself as an agent. You have to just say that extra $10,000 you're asking is worth it for this company. And I'm sorry, but for most, insurance is regulated through the state. And 95%
all their rates, they have to get approved.
Well, not only that, but
people don't understand it.
But it's also regulated as far as claims. Like if a company doesn't pay on claims, they can go to make a complaint with the state, and the state can say, if they're getting too many complaints in, the state will kick them out, right? Also, so as long as I have an A-rated company, because I have to represent only A-rated companies, and as long as they're a good company, 9 out of 10 times, it doesn't matter which company it's with. Now, if they've been really bad with for the most part, I've had really good experience with most companies with claims. I'm going to have a bad claim here or there.
Yeah.
I'm going to get a bad adjuster here and there with every company. There's not a single company out there that doesn't have a whole litany of it, but they have millions of customers. That's why. So if you take care of 99% of your customers out of a million, that's going to mean there's 100,000 customers who had a bad experience. And most of that's because either they didn't know their coverage. Anyway, so. But what it comes down to is the ability to shop right now has been so good. I think it's great. Change actually brings a lot of opportunity. But what the biggest one is, it's 100% all inflation. It's all the inflation because PNC pays to replace stuff.
Sure.
It pays to replace cars, your lost wedding ring, your house that burned down, everything. So when those prices go up, which they've gone up tremendously in the last 5 years, the rates go up, and that's all what it's about. So it has nothing to do. Everybody's been making excuses about your agent might go, well, there's this, and they're trying to make excuses, especially the captive agents. They'll try to make a lot of excuses about things. It's 100%. That company is just treading water, and they're trying to make a profit.
Yeah.
And they're having to increase their rates because they're getting hit with too many claims. And if you can compete, if there's a free market and they can compete, those companies, for the most part, PNC is still able to compete in the market as far as the regulations haven't been too onerous where a PNC company can come in and compete with everybody else in the market. So we're still in a competitive field in the PNC world.
Yeah.
And so because of that has kept the rates, for the most part, have been pretty reasonable for long term, where usually when I started, we could get people car insurance for $30, $40, $50 a month. Today, it's $100. If I can get a rate under $100 a month on a car, on a good driver, good credit, no tickets for accident car, full coverage, that's really good. But that's all have been inflation. It's all ran by inflation.
Talk about a couple things about the state I want to reiterate. Insurance companies are bound, meaning they have to pay the claim.
They have to.
And the state, they have to approve the rate increases. Like, hey, they have to file with the state saying, hey, we're going to increase our rates this. So there is overwatch when it comes to the state level. And then not only that, but you come back, and it's interesting if the other point you made is if you're comparing the same company and the rate is less, you need to be concerned about the fine print, what is not covered.
Yes. And what's interesting is the company doesn't need the state approval. Well, it's kind of weird. The company files their rates. But the state has 30 days to look at it and reject it. And there have been multiple times that states have come back and said, no, we're not going to let you take that rate.
They say
the state can deny your rate increase. And there have been companies who have pulled out of states, like for a certain product, where they said, we can no longer make a profit in this state. If we don't get this rate increase, we're pulling out.
Yeah.
And sometimes the state will say, okay, let's work on this. Or they've said a hard no. And I know Florida's had some issues with hurricanes and some property, some home insurance carriers. And they've actually pulled out of the state completely because they said, we can't make a profit based on our model, based on our experience. and whatnot. So it's hard. It's not as I know a lot of people have a hard time with insurance, and it is kind of a necessary evil. But a lot of these companies are doing the best they can, and they're just trying to negotiate the market. And the competitive nature keeps them trying to keep their rates low. And so they're trying, but it kind of is what it is.
I love the comments that I get from time to time where people are like, oh, I'm forced to have insurance on my car because I'm driving, or I'm forced to have homeowner's insurance. I'm like, listen, you're not forced to do anything. However, it's a requirement, right?
Yeah.
And what's sad is the insurance that isn't required, like health insurance isn't required necessarily, but the best thing I think you can insure is your life.
Oh, yeah.
Meaning health or life insurance. And people will insure their phone they have in a pocket for $30, $40 a month, but they won't take the time to insure their own life.
Yeah.
Or to pay additional coverage for the roadside assistance or the tow, right? All those things are, it's amazing to me. Like, I get it. I mean, I'm in the insurance space, but spend those dollars.
Yeah. And nobody wants to think about the negative, right?
No.
Nobody wants to think about the negative. But you got to prepare. You got to at least prepare and say, if this were to happen, like for life insurance, nobody wants life insurance.
No one wants to use it.
Nobody,
for sure.
Nobody wants to use it. But nobody wants to think about it. Nobody wants to think about it. And that's perfectly fair, right? Perfectly fair that you don't want to think about it. But as an insurance agent, it's your job to kind of say, I understand you don't want to think about it, but let's at least have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
Let's at least spend 20 minutes having a conversation about this. And if you still don't want to do anything, that's 100% on you. But at least you have we've had the conversation, and I can say, well, I talked to you about it. Hopefully down the road you'll be able to get what you need. Make that choice.
It's about education.
Yeah.
Right. 100%. And I mean, I tell people that I have an umbrella policy as an example, and it lowered my rates because I offset the risk to an umbrella policy.
Oh yeah.
And people are like, well, what is that? I said, well, it basically it covers me for litigation. It covers me against anything that's not a professional lawsuit.
Yep.
But if it's, something happens, heaven forbid, on my property and the kid breaks something and they decide to come after me and sue me, well, that's what it's for.
And umbrellas also are worldwide. You're on vacation and you do something on vacation.
Yeah.
I don't know what it would be.
I don't know. Yeah, but
if you did something on vacation and you were sued in another country, that would cover you.
Yeah.
So any personal acts, and that's what the umbrella, that's why they call it umbrella. It covers everything, but it also extends the liability.
Yeah.
It makes it worldwide.
I think everybody should have an umbrella policy. I think everybody should have life insurance. I think everybody should pay a little bit more than the state minimum requirements for insurance. That's what I think everyone should do. But but I get things are tied as well.
And that's the point. That's the conversation you have is and when I talk to people, the first thing I ask them is, what's your motivation? Are you here to save money?
Yeah.
Everyone wants to save money.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to save money. But what covers? So I start with the coverage they have now, and I look at the coverage they have now, and I kind of have a baseline where if they have, like, say, state minimums, I don't quote state minimums. I'll quote higher than state minimums, and just to see if I'm able to save them money with that. If I'm able to save money with that, then I go back to them and say, hey, I'm able to give you 4 times the coverage, and still save you money. And usually I could go with that. So I'm trying to bump them up, but still save them money. Everybody wants to save money, but like I said, the other conversation is, at what price?
Yeah.
At what price are you willing to?
What are you willing to risk? Like stock markets, I said, people, are you high risk? Are you high risk adverse? Do you want to, gamble? I mean, or do you want to not gamble? I mean, everybody has a choice.
Yeah.
But as you educate, let people decide.
Yeah, you educate, let people decide. They'd be surprised how that is. But there's certain things that I'll offer them, and there's now just being in insurance, there's something I just don't even offer anymore.
Yeah.
If they're not willing to do this is not my client, because I know it's going to come back and bite me. Even if I get a signature on a paper, they're going to come back and say, well, why'd you do this?
Yeah. Why risk it, right?
Yeah. Why risk such low coverage and putting them in a situation where there's a good chance, even if it's a small chance, it's going to be a chance where it's just not good for them.
It's not worth it. Why do you want it?
Yeah.
What would you tell somebody that is looking to get in the industry? What would you tell them, or looking back 20 years in the business, what would you tell them? Because the landscape is different. The way we market's different.
Yes, that's a lot different.
Before you get to that, I want to say one other thing. I think COVID changed the way people look at things. I mean, people wanted things quicker, faster, overnight. I think for instance, me, I'm willing to pay a little bit more money for service. If somebody will pick up the phone, answer my questions, even if I'm going to a restaurant, I know it's going to be a little bit more money, as long as they're on top of it and service, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's happening, that pendulum is kind of swinging back a little bit where people want the service and may be willing to pay a little bit more. But so on the service aspect, what would you tell somebody that's looking at the industry to do, or maybe looking back, say, I wish somebody would have told me this?
I think the insurance industry is a great industry to get into. That's a good question. If you're willing to put the time and effort in, and you're willing, you can make a really good living in the insurance industry. If you're willing to do it right and you're willing to put the time and effort in, you're patient, and you have those hardworking skills, you can make a really good living if you're willing just to put that time and effort in.
Mm-hmm.
The cool thing about an insurance industry is you kind of get a little bit of everything. And I guess that's kind of the same with any self-employed job. Is insurance, you're starting off first as a salesman.
Yeah.
Because you don't have anything underneath. You don't have anybody to manage. You don't have all those things. So you first start off as a salesman. And as you then start to build up your clientele, now you need customer service, right? So then you might hire your first customer service person. So now you become a manager and a hire, right? And then as that builds up and you say, well, now I need maybe a couple salespeople underneath you. So then you start to build up a sales team. Mm-hmm. And you kind of go through the whole thing of becoming, sales, customer service, manager, marketer, all those things. And hopefully you want to have the hat of business owner, mm-hmm. and you have those things there. So it's a great kind of a little microcosm of you kind of learn all those hats. And then as you learn all those hats and you kind of become good at those things, obviously you don't want to wear those hats for too long because then you're doing too much.
Yeah.
But if you can juggle those for good, if you can juggle those for a time being, and if you could kind of really, and with insurance, you got to believe in yourself. You've got to believe in yourself that you can do it.
Yeah.
And so if you have a hard time with that, I would say don't jump into an insurance. So you've got to believe in yourself. And you got to realize if you stick with it and do the daily tasks every day, you'll get there. And so there's so much you learn along the way that yes, you can do it. You learn about self-management, you learn about time management, you learn about, and I guess it's the same. Like I said, it could be the same with a lot of industries. This is a little bit different. I mean, if I'm a contractor, I'm focused more on my skill and honing my skill, and then hopefully that being a good contractor, that'll attract the business, right? I mean, You still got to market and do those things. And I guess it's the same with insurance, right? The better you are at insurance and taking care of the client and giving them the right coverage and educating them. But I think it's a little bit unique in the fact that you can go through that whole cycle, and then hopefully you've built that up, and over 5, 10, 20 years, you're sitting on a really profitable business. But you're not profitable for you and also profitable for clients, that you're taking care of clients.
It's a win-win-win.
Exactly. It's a win-win-win. You've built up a good clientele that you're taking care of because you've done a good job. You've done it right. And if you've done it right, then it's a win-win. It's a win for everybody. It's a win for you that you've been able to build a business. And it's a win for the customer as well, that they've got somebody they can call that's going to take care of them, that they know their situation. Like we talked about, that pendulum is swinging the other way, where when the internet first came out, everybody wanted to rush on the internet. They can get quotes, they can do that kind of thing. But then when they call, I just had one the other day, was it yesterday? Another client who said, I switched back, like I know I'm paying extra because they know me.
Do you answer the phone?
Yeah.
I mean, if that's what it is, I don't know that, but I'm sure you do.
They said, I went with these other companies because I was less, but I get a call center. And I want to be able to call and just say, this is what I need, and somebody takes care of me. And so I will pay more for that. I know I'm going to save them money.
Yeah.
Because I'm able to shop them around. They went with a captive company, and I know I'm going to save them money over that. But I said, I'm the same way. Luckily, with independent, though, I can do the same thing, but with multiple companies.
Yeah.
And so, that's what I would say. I would say if you're going into insurance, it's a great field to go into. You have to go into it with an attitude. This is going to take a few years to build up. So I need to be patient, but you've got to believe in yourself. If you can believe in yourself, then I would say this would be a great industry to get into. Yeah. You've got to believe in yourself and be patient, but in the long term, you'll be really happy that you did. So
So where do you see it going in the next 5 years with your business? And
I'm excited right now, honestly, with all the change in the market.
we had changes on our side too. It's a lot of opportunity. I'm feeling for a new agent, a veteran agents, the sky's the limit, dude. It is go time.
That's, I mean, I don't want to, this sounds really selfish, but when rates go up, I just make a percent, and it's a small percent. But when rates go up, my percent goes up.
Yeah.
So the fact that rates have gone up, because they have been flat for years, it was really hard for a couple of years because rates have been flat for 10, 15 years, which were it's great for clients.
Sure.
But it was hard for me because I had to bring in way more clients. So now it's almost like rates have started to, it's become more profitable for a PNC agent is what I'm seeing. And I think there's opportunity there, a lot more opportunity for a PNC agent, because how it works with PNC is if you want to make a certain amount of income, you've got to have so much money under management, right?
Yeah.
Well, if the average client is only X amount of dollars, that means you need more clients. Well, if the average client now is double that, well, I need half as many clients, but that cuts my service job down. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
For property and casualty, you start bringing on clients, and you'll take on just about everybody that will come in with whatever rates. But just like anybody, you're going to fire a couple of clients, right? Yeah. Some people can't pay their bills. Some people it's not a good fit. Whatever's going to work. So there's going to be some attrition, but you're going to keep some of those long-term clients, and that's kind of what you want. You want to kind of build up those long-term clients, and so
deep roots, right? Deep roots.
You want those deep roots, yeah. Because you want to insure them, and you're insuring their family, and you'll be insuring people. I've had people that have been with me from the very beginning, 20 plus years.
Yeah.
And they've known me, and I've known them, and then they've known my family and different things, and they call up, and I've known all the stuff they've been through, and it's great,
in sales, it's relationships.
Oh, yeah.
It's a relationship business. I mean, that's a relationship why you're here on this podcast show. Aaron, how would somebody get a hold of you if they wanted to look at rates? How would they want to? How do they get a hold of you? They come by your office? What does that process look like for somebody?
Honestly, the best technology today is texting.
Give you text?
I do. Luckily, I know in some industries, when I was with American Family, I had for a little bit of period of time, they had your securities license. I know people in the security field. I'm shocked that some of the limitations they have, and I'm really glad at PNC they haven't overregulated it. I do probably 80 to 90% of my communication is all text now.
Okay.
Which is really interesting. I text to get their information, but then I call them back when I got that quote because I want to talk to them. I want to hear them. I want to explain to them. So most of the time, it's usually a text, and it's usually a referral that says, hey, so-and-so said, hey, so-and-so gave me your number. Can you give me a quote? And I say, absolutely.
Yeah.
Text me pictures of this, this, and this, and I'll get working on it. And then when I have something, I'll give you a call. So
I like it. Just that initial intake form, because it's a process. You got to send the cars and how, all those things. And
oh my gosh.
And then you're like, and you got to then analyze it and then make sure, hey, how can I put this together as a package?
It's been so good now with text and just pictures. And I usually just say, take pictures of driver's license, take pictures of your current policy, text that in. That's like 95% of what I need.
Yeah.
And it works so good that way. So it's kind of weird, but texting has been honestly my biggest go-to is just texting.
So they could send you a text. We'll put in the link in the bio below. And then any last thoughts you want to leave, just life lessons, any last moment thoughts. And by the way, check him out on social media. Click the link below. Give him a text. He'll give you a free quote. There's no harm in looking or shopping. And that's where a lot of people realize they're like, I don't want to do it, but let him do his job. Let him, see if he can save you money. And then you've got a relationship where you can call him and help him out. Last thoughts there.
One of the last things right now, I think, in the PNC world, which that I'm doing is shopping's key right now. Is you got to shop like you talked about. I'm having before when the rates are steady, renewals come. I wouldn't review the renewals very much because I didn't have to.
There was no need.
There's no need. But now every renewal has to be looked at. Every time they renew, they have to be looked at. So,
or what if they add a car? You should look at it, right?
Well, if you add a car, typically not. But the two things I'm looking at are renewals or any major changes in premium. Every youthful driver.
Like 10 grand?
Yeah.
10 grand? Yeah.
Every youthful driver I have to shop.
Yeah.
Because It's going to be a huge jump. And what's weird is only about 50% of the time, their current insurance company is the best.
Wow.
What's weird is when you had a youthful driver on, I would say half the time they need to switch to a different company.
Okay.
I don't know how or why, but that's how it is. Another trick that we're seeing, and it's kind of the weirdest thing in the P&C world right now, is you get a rate. If you get a rate and you wait 10 days to bind coverage, you get a better rate. They don't want people coming in and switching the next day. They don't want those people making decisions right away. So they give you advanced quote discount or advanced switch discount. Weirdest thing. So you get a quote, you need to wait about 10 to 14 days before you switch. So I like to quote about 30 days in advance.
Okay.
And that way I can get them switched like 2 weeks in advance or 10 days in advance. I don't know. So that's kind of a big trick is don't go switch the next day. Wait about 10 days and the rate will be better. Wow. They give you advanced quote discounts, advanced switch discounts. They last about 3 years and they fall off.
Yeah.
So, but it's nice because they give you 10, 20, sometimes up to 20% less than that. And that makes a big difference on rates. So shop around. My recommendation is get with an independent agent. Captive companies are great, but an independent agent a good one will take care of you better. And that's pretty much about it. I mean, there's a lot in the P&C world. So I give a lot, but as finishing, that's what I'll finish.
Aaron, thank you so much for being on the show.
Okay.
As always, share, like, and subscribe. And do me a favor, when you subscribe, you get notifications of a new podcast every single week. And also, if anybody's interested in a specific topic, let me know. I'd be happy to bring on guests. We've got some great guests that come on the show. But always share, like, and subscribe. We'll catch you on the next one. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Ty Brady Way. As always, share, like, and subscribe. Go to Instagram at ty.r.brady. And as always, love hearing from you. And let me know what you want to learn on the show or what you'd like me to bring up on the show. Thanks.
You can find the Ty Brady Way on Instagram as well as Facebook. To stay connected with giveaways and Ty himself, go ahead and follow at ty.r.brady on Instagram as well as Facebook. This podcast was recorded, edited, and produced by Whitney Face Media Marketing. The theme music is an excerpt from Hot Chicken of the Woods by Isaac Joel.